Okay, so we have created a script file which is able to solve problems like this, right? So we have concurrency, and they are also coplanar. So just like that. Now I want to create an app that will solve that same problem, right? So instead of using the script, we can use the app. So let's go. Maybe I'll show you a preview. Okay, now let's go ahead. So there is an app designer in MATLAB which is used for doing GUIs, graphic user interfaces. It's called the App Designer. So this is my App Designer, and I called it just by typing App Designer in my command window. Okay, so this is basically the background for my app, right? So you can use this icon right here at the bottom to change the size. You can change its name, UI figure if you want, but let's not focus on that for this work. Now, what do I need? Okay, so for my work here, let me get a label, put some label here, change this to, let's say, let me call it forces. I'm going to call this forces or force, which is fine. Okay, and I can use this text, or I can use these commands here under configuration to change. I can center it maybe, and then maybe change this, make it bigger, I don't know, 20, and then I have the background here. So I can, sorry for that, I can click on this radio button, click on that, then for background of force, I don't know, maybe blue or something. I don't know, I'm not quite sure. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so that is just a label, means that is just a label. Okay, so now to more important stuff. I can use edit field with this. Okay, can use it. And then let me change this to the magnitude of the force. Let's take that in Newton. And then mind you, we are using numeric fields here because the magnitude is going to be a number, an integer, or a float of some kind. So I have magnitude, and then I have angle. Take that in degrees, maybe degree, whatever. Okay, so I have these two. I think there's a typo here. Okay, alright. And what else can I get? The technique I'm going to use is such that whenever I specify some force, I will add it to an array, right? So I'm going to make this an add button. Okay, just like that. And then I'll have calculate, which is also going to be a button. So let's say calculate. Calculate, which is also a button. Now before I continue, there is something I want to do here. So for this, once I click on magnitude, it shows me the name of that component. And I'm going to edit this. I don't want it to be called numeric edit field. I want it to be called app.magnitude so that I know what exactly I'm dealing with. Now once I click on this, it highlights that for me. So I'll double click this and then I'll change that to app.angle. Now this, if I should click on that, okay. So what button is that? So let me call that dot add and then calculate. Let me select this. Okay, what does that give me? So app.calculate. All right, and then I am going to get a test area. This. Okay. I'm going to make this narrower. Okay. And then for this, let me try to center that. I'll call this my resultant force. Okay, maybe resultant force. And then here, I'll change that from test area to resultant. I don't know, should I use underscore force? And then I'm going to get another one. I'm going to get another one. Where do I get it? Test area. Okay. Give the size. And then maybe center that. This I'll call the resultant angle. All right. Okay. So we'll work with that. We'll manage it as is. Okay. All right. So this is what we have. Now what can we do? I think there is a need for us to change this. So I'll have resultant angle. Alright, so now that I have the outline of this, I know this is how it has to look like. So once I supply, let's say 10 Newton and an angle of 45 degrees, I click on add, and then that information will be added to some array. All right, and then after I've added all the forces, I click on calculate, and then the answers are populated here for me. Okay, so now I have the design view. This is where I add the buttons and all that. Then I have the code view, and that is where I do my coding. So let's go to code view. Okay, now once you click on code view, all of this is created for you. So basically what is happening here is you have a class that is created that represents the app that you have created. All this information is populated by default by MATLAB, so you don't need to change anything here. Now all these stuff here, you don't have to change them, but we have to do some work. Okay, so what do we need to do? The very first thing we ought to do is to click on this add, right? So now once we click on this add, we want something to happen or something to occur when we click on this add button here. So what do we want? Now for us to specify what should happen, we'll click here on callback. So here you have callbacks, functions, properties. What we need is callback. All right, so we click on callback. Then once you click on callback, we are being asked what component do we want, and the component we actually want is what? Is add. The callback information will be button pushed function. That will be the name of the function. Okay, so let's just click on OK. Now once you click on OK, you see that that function is created for you right here. Okay, right here it says add button pushed. Okay, add button pushed. Okay, so that function is created for you. Add button push. That is when we click on add, what should happen. Now in the button properties, when I click on callback, you see that I have the add button pushed, which is the name of of this function. Okay, all right. So when we push the button, what do we want to occur? Okay, so what do we need? Okay, now the technique we are using here is that whenever we click the add button, we want to collect the value. We want to collect the value and the magnitude and the value and the angle. Okay, so how do I do that now? Okay, so I can say app dot okay, so app dot magnitude, this one. So app dot magnitude dot value. That means that I want to pick this value, app dot magnitude dot value. I want to pick that value and I want to add it to some array, but I haven't created that array yet. Let's say now let's imagine I've already created that array, and that array is called magnitudes. Okay, so magnitudes. So magnitudes is a certain array, and then I want to add app dot magnitude dot value to that array. So I would have to right. So I have magnitudes, which is the empty array, and then I am now adding app.magnitude dot value. So that means that I have to go back and create this empty array called magnitudes. Alright. Okay, so how do I create that? Now I need to create the magnitude array in such a way that it is accessible by all the functions in this app. Now for me to do that, I can go to callbacks like that. Oh no, I can go to the code browser here and then click on properties. So I will create a property of this class. All right, so click on property, and then this property is created here for me. Okay, so what property did I want to create? I wanted to create what? Magnitudes, which is an empty array. All right, so for description I can just say empty, or let's call this vector that collects magnitude of forces. Okay, now it is almost natural that if we want to take the magnitude of the forces, then we also have to take the angles. So why don't we go ahead and create angles as well? So angles will also be an empty array, and we can say vector that collects angles of the forces. Okay, all right. Okay, so now let's end this with that. Okay, now we have this cautionary symbol here. What does that mean? Now what that means is that MATLAB or Appdesigner that does not recognize magnitude and magnitudes. It doesn't recognize these two. The reason why it doesn't recognize them is that we have not included the name of the class, and the class is apps. So if you look at this property here, it says app.magnitudes, app.angles. So let's effect that. Let's say app.magnitudes and app.magnitudes. Voila. And then that is that. Okay. So when we click on the add button, what happens? Now this information, the app.magnitude.value, which is the value that we have supplied in here, will be added to this array like that. Okay, so what about the angle? When we click add, we also want the magnitude, no, not the magnitude, but we want the angles to be added to what? To be added to the angles array or vector. So app dot, this time around I have to add this one, app dot angle dot value. So app dot angle dot, I meant angle and not angel. So the value. Okay. So this is what I need. Okay. So that is that. Now, so that has been taken care of. Okay. So what about calculate? When I click, let's say I have added 4 forces, I have added 5 forces, I've added their magnitudes and their angles. I've done all of that. Now I need to calculate. So let me click here on calculate, right? Calculate, and then I'll go to the callbacks for calculate, right? And then mind you, calculate is selected, so I'll hit callback, and then it says the component is calculate. The callback will be button push function. The component is calculate, the callback is button push function, right? And then the name will be calculate button push. Let me hit OK. Now Appdesigner creates the function for me, or the method for me. So this is a class, so the function is going to be a method of that class. Okay, so what do I need to do? What do I need to do whenever I click on calculate? Okay, so once I click on the add button, I want the S component to be calculated. So I can say app.magnitude.cos D. Now, cos D of angles. The problem is that once I do it this way, I am picking all the values in magnitude and all the values in angles, and obviously that wouldn't work. So I can write a for loop so that this for loop will go over magnitudes and then do the computation for each item in magnitude. So I can say for, but I also need the for loop to terminate somewhere. So how many iterations of the for loop do I need? The number of iterations of the for loop I need will be equivalent to the number of items inside the magnitudes vector. or I can also use the angles. In this case, I'll just use magnitudes. So I will say the number of iterations will be equal to the length of magnitudes. All right, so now I can say for I, which is equal to 1 all the way to the number of iterations, right? The number of iterations, and then I can end this. Okay, so now I can copy this and put it inside that. So this will be my S component. So like we did for the previous script, I would have to do it for each what? I'd have to do it for each value inside of my vector. So that is that. Okay. All right. So this is how I go over it. Mind you, we are doing a live coding here of some sort. All right. So when we finish, we'll have to test all of these, and if it doesn't work, we'll go back and then debug the codes. That's what we are going to do. Okay, and then cos of angles. I am already making a mistake, and that mistake is that I need this to be sine. Okay, so this is what I have. Let's check this error. What does it say? Okay, so use app.magnitude. That's good. Yeah. Now we have to use app.that. It is a property of the class, and the class is an app, so we would have to use app.angles. So this is what we have so far. Now once we are done, we can break out of the for loop, and then we can say the sum of x will be equal to sum, which is an inbuilt function. So we sum all the s components, and then the sum of y will be equal to use sum, which is an inbuilt so y underscore comp, like that, and then the resultant will be equal to sqrt, right? And then we'll have the sum underscore x all raised to the power of 2 plus the y sum underscore y, all of this raised to the power of 2, and then the resultant angle will be equal to a tan d, right, which is the sum underscore y over sum underscore x, like that. Okay, so, and then once we are done, what can we do? We can now say that look at this app.resultant force. So I'll say app.resultant underscore force, right? App.resultant force underscore value will be equal to the string. This is a test field, and a test field cannot take a value or cannot take an integer. So I need to convert. I want to post this information, resultant. I want to post resultant here. So I'll use an inbuilt function which is num to string. So I'll use num to string to convert resultant to a string, right? And then I will post that information to what? To this field right here, like that. So I would also say app dot resultant underscore angle dot value will be equal to num, converting the number to string again. And then I would say resultant underscore angle like that. Okay, I'll run this. Ask me to save. Let me save with the name app.concurrent Coplanar Forces. Okay, and mind you, the file type is MATLAB if you want. So let me save this. Now the code runs. This pops up. We put in, say, 20 and 20. Let me hit add. Let me see if that part works well. I don't seem to get any error. And then I would say, let's say 15. Let me say add. Any errors on that part? No. Now let me hit calculate. And then I get an answer. Okay, so let me go back. I would close this. Okay, so I'll hit run once again, and then I want to use the information from our very last script. I want to use this to verify if we are correct, because we know the answers from this. Okay, so I'll have the magnitude. I have 10 and 45. Click on add, and then I have 5 and 150. I'll add that, and then I have 15 and 300. I'll add that moment of truth, drum roll, and then calculate. Okay, so 10.7967 Newton, and resultant angle is -18. Okay, so we are perfectly correct. Okay, so let me make a modification or two. Alright, so I'll put n here and then degrees there. I don't know how necessary that is. So let me go back to design view. Here I'm just going to put Newton. Here I need degrees. I don't know where to find superscript, so I'm sorry, I'm just going to use O. I don't know where to find superscript yet. Okay, so that is that. Now, one problem we are facing is when I click on add, the figures remain static. So let me run this as a bit what I mean. So if I should put in 10 and say 12 and I click on add, I don't know whether this information has been added or not, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say when I click on add, after this has been added to the array, this should change back to 0 and 0. So that is what I'm going to do. I'll do that by going to code view, and then under the add button pushed here, what will I say? I will say that what I need to do these two lines will add the values to magnitude and to what, and to angle. So after that has been done, I would say that what is the name? I would say app.magnitude, right, which is where I enter my magnitude. So app.magnitude, I'm referring to this box right here. I'm referring to this. So I would say app.magnitude dot value. So the value of that should be equal to 0. So what that means is that after this has been added, after the value you enter has been added to the magnitudes array, now it should change the value in here back to 0. Okay, so app.magnitude.value will be 0, and then app.angle, which refers to this one right here. Okay, all right. Okay, so now this one, the angle will also app.angle.value should also become 0. Okay, so that is that. Let me check. So magnitude, I'll say 10, and then angle 45, I add it, and then everything goes back to 0. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so maybe let me do one more thing, and then we can end this. Let me go to design view. Let's say I have added, I have added some magnitude or angles, and I feel they are incorrect, and I want to clear them. What do I have to do? Let me add another button. This button will say clear. So I'm not clearing the previous, I'm just clearing the entire array. So that is what I'm doing here. Okay, so let me double click on this and say clear, and then here let me change its name from button to clear as well, and then click on that and change its background to, I don't know, maybe for something that I need to clear, maybe red, right? And then click on that and change the background here to green. Okay, so for clear, what do I do? Let me click on clear, and I want to add some functionality to it. So I have to go to the code view, and in the code view, clear is already selected like that. I'll add a callback. Okay, I'll add a callback and say okay, and then this is that. So whenever I push the clear button, what do I want to happen? I want app.magnitudes, okay, to become empty. That's all I need. And then app.angles should also become empty. So I want this to become empty, and that also to be empty. Where do I need to be? Right, so that is all I need. Okay, so I'll save this. I'll just hit on run, it will automatically save. Okay, all right. Now if I should do 10 and 45 and I add, okay, if I should clear this, right, then the information there will be empty. So if I should click on calculate, I get an error. The reason why I get an error, and that error is here, undefined function or variable scomp. Where is scomp? Here. I'm trying to find the first value in what? In scomp, but scomp is what? Is empty right now. Now, because we have cleared the information, so if it's empty, then I can't find the first value or indeed any other value in it, and that is where this error is coming from. So what can I do? I can write an if statement that says that if this scomp, or indeed if magnitude is empty, then tell us that we can't perform the computation. So I can write an if statement that says that if magnitude here is empty, okay, I haven't supplied any information for the forces, then of course I can't perform any computation. So what can I do? I can come here and write some if statement. So I can say if and then there is an inbuilt command that I can use. So it's empty. We'll check if apt.magnitude if apt.magnitude is empty. If apt.magnitude, which is this, is empty, right? And this can be empty when we haven't supplied any values, or when we clear it, when we click on clear. If any of these two conditions are true, then this one here will be true. So if the magnitude is empty, right, then what can we say? Then we can say that print some information or display some information. But just to make this short, I will display that information in apps dot. I'll display it here in the force. So apps dot resultant force. Okay, so I would say apps dot resultant underscore force, okay, dot value will be equal to, and then I'll put in a string that says enter, or I can say, yeah, it's all right, enter value, or more specifically enter magnitude, because there is no magnitude there, right? And then I can also say apps dot resultant angle dot value will also be equal to enter angle, okay, enter angle. All right. Okay, I think it should rather be app, not apps. Okay, sorry for that. So app, and then app. Okay, so this is what I have. So if there is an if the magnitude, if I haven't supplied any magnitude, or if I have cleared it, then this information will be given here. Okay, now if that is not the case, that is my else statement. So if on the other hand there are magnitudes and angles, then all of this code here will now run. Okay, so I'll copy everything, or let me leave that there. I'll just copy this. I'll just copy end from there, and then I'll put it here. Okay, that is that. Okay, and then what I'll do is I can select all of this and go to editor and say smart indent. Then it will indent it appropriately for me. Okay, so there is so much we can do from here on out. Okay, but we'll end it here and then tackle some other problems. All right, so let's try this out. Okay, so I would say right now the magnitudes and the angles array of vectors are empty. So if I hit calculate, okay, I think there is a typographical error. Magnitudes. All right, so let me run this. Okay, again there is nothing in the magnitudes vector when I hit calculate. Okay, another typographical error. Okay, so I run this. Let's see, calculate. All right, so what does it say? Enter magnitude, enter angle, because you haven't supplied anything. Okay, and then so now let me supply something 10 and then 45. Let me add and calculate, and then I have my solution. Now there can be a situation where the user adds the magnitude but forgets to add the angle or the reverse, and then when you should calculate, you get an error. So you can go back and try your hands on that and see how you can solve the problem. Okay, all right, have fun. See you in the next one.